Hello, Medicine 101 podcast members. Welcome to another episode of Medicine 101 podcast. In this week's episode, we will be speaking on Omega-3 and can Omega-3 help undo memory damage coming from processed foods? So this week's episode is particularly in the category of neuroscience and food. However, without further ado, let's get into it. Carbohydrates are an essential source of energy for the body. There are two groups of carbohydrates, simple and complex carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates take longer to digest and have many nutritional benefits that help regulate blood sugar levels. By contrast, refined carbohydrates take less time to digest, have fewer nutritional benefits, and can increase blood sugar levels and increase the risk of health conditions such as type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Refined carbs and omega-3. Health experts also link diets containing high levels of refined carbohydrates to learning and memory difficulties. Previous research has shown that aged but not young rats eating a short-term high-fat diet had impaired memory and decreased levels of inflammation in various parts of the brain. The researchers found, however, that a dietary intervention can reduce this. Other research has observed that an omega-3 called docosahexaenoic acid, DHA, can reduce inflammation in the brain relating to traumatic brain injury, stroke, and related age cognitive decline. Scientists do not know whether DHA protects against carbohydrate-related effects on cognition and neuroinflammation. Little is also known on how to diet in processed foods with high levels of refined carbohydrates and saturated fats. And the lack of fiber affects the aging brain. Recently, researchers from Ohio State University and Innovative Inc. conducted a study to understand the mechanics behind the neurological effects of processed diets and whether omega-3 and supplementation could improve these effects. They found that processed food diets impaired memory function among aged but not young rats, and that this occurred alongside increased signs of inflammation. Omega-3 supplementation, however, improved these effects. When asked whether these results were surprising, Dr. Ruth Barnetos, PhD, lead author of this research and associate professor at OSU, told Medical News Today, yes, many studies, including our own, have focused on high-fat and high-sugar diets being detrimental to memory function, but few have examined the short-term effects of a highly processed diet. Given that many processed diets are low in fat, we had our doubts that we'd seen any significant results. Not only did we observe very significant memory impairments, but we also saw significant weight gain with this diet. It has also been told that, quote, I think we've known for a while that prolonged compensation of highly processed foods can be detrimental to the body, but this study shows just how bad this can be for our brains, particularly for older adults. Other studies have shown how beneficial omega-3 can be, but this study has gone a step further to show how its consumption can be good for mental health, he added. Rat study. The researchers obtained 3 and 24-month-old rats for this research. As female rats were not available in the older age category at the time of the study, the researchers exclusively used male rats. At the beginning of the research, the younger rats weighed around 300 grams on average, whereas the older rats weighed around 550 grams. The rats were used and housed to a 2-cage and randomly assigned to continue eating either a regular diet, including 54% of complex carbohydrates, a processed food diet including 63.3% of refined carbohydrates, or a processed food diet and DHA supplements for 28 days. After this period of time, the scientists placed the rats separately in a conditioning chamber where the rats heard a tone for 15 seconds and then received a 2-second foot shock. 4 days later, the scientists reintroduced the rats to the cage and the sound to assess their fear response. While there were no differences in freezing behavior between the different groups of rats during the conditioning phase, the researchers observed that older rats exclusively fed a processed diet froze significantly less in both fear experiments than older animals on other diets. The researchers also found that both groups of rats that ate a processed food diet experienced weight gain similar to that of the rats on an alternative diet. Moreover, older animals were more affected than younger ones. After these experiments, the researchers isolated different areas of the rats' brains to analyze their RNA. These analyses revealed that the rats that ate a processed food diet alone had a significantly higher inflammatory gene expression than those that consumed the alternative diet, or a processed food diet with DHA supplementation. The authors found, however, that DHA supplementation did not impact all genes that the study implemented. According to the researchers, that DHA supplements do not necessarily offset the negative effects of highly refined foods, that the people should focus on overall diet improvement by increasing carbohydrates and fiber intake. The researchers conclude that a processed food diet with refined carbohydrates impairs cognitive function, increases neuroinflammatory genes expression, and increases weight gain in aged rats. They also found that DHA supplementation can reduce this effect. So, next time when you think about carbohydrates, think about how there could be complex and how there can be simple carbohydrates. And then also think about the impacts it can have not only on your physical health, in your mental health, but particularly on the health within your brain, meaning your neural health. It is very important that we choose a healthy and balanced diet, because this will have great impacts on how our brain functions, whether we have cognitive impairments, etc. Furthermore, we also do not want to lose our memory, and surprisingly, certain foods can do this, particularly ones